Well, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is our fourth webinar for this mini series on holding space. And this webinar is holding space in complexity. And I am super excited to share it with you. As you can hear, I'm a little under the weather, but the beauty of being at home is that I can do this feeling under the weather. If we were in person, I would say, no, I can't do that. Oh gosh, Iván, I forgot to get a bell. Do you have a bell? I can go get my bell. Pull down a triangle.
I was mute. Yeah, I can get it, but I have beautiful bells. I also have Rush bell. I can use that one too.
Well, you choose. Why don't you start the bell? You do the bell for us.
Yeah, let me
ring us in. Thanks so much, Iván. I am going to share the screen. We have an opening, sort of a poem. It's from an essay. And it's from an essay that I have been reading for many years. I've been reading this essay for at least 20 years, 25 years. It's by Rachel Naomi Remen. And the essay is called Helping, Fixing, or Serving. And this is just a small piece of that essay. And I thought it might help us kind of ground into the holding space, the concept of complexity on some level. So let me share screen. And let's see. Iván, we didn't really decide who's going to read it first. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I can go first, Mary. Thank you for the invitation. All right, I'll read the first time. Mary will read the second time. So, Fixing, Serving, distilled from In the Service of Life by Rachel Naomi Remen. A fixer has the illusion of being casual. A server knows he or she is being used in the service of something greater, essentially unknown. We fix something specific. We serve always the something, wholeness and the mystery of life. Fixing and helping are the work of the ego. Serving is the work of the soul. When you help, you see life as weak. When you fix, you see life as broken. When you serve, you see life as whole. Fixing and helping make cure. Serving heals. When I help, I feel satisfaction. When I serve, I feel gratitude. Fixing is a form of judgment. Serving is a form of connection.
So fixing, serving. This is distilled from In the Service of Life by Rachel Naomi Remen. A fixer has the illusion of being causal. A server knows he or she is used in the service of something greater, essentially unknown. We fix something specific. We serve always the something, the wholeness and the mystery of life. Fixing and helping are the work of the ego. Serving is the work of the soul. When you help, you see life as weak. When you fix, you see life as broken. When you serve, you see life as whole. Fixing and helping make cure. Serving heals. When I help, I feel satisfaction. When I serve, I feel gratitude and connection. Fixing is a form of judgment. Serving is a form of connection. So for our opening circle, I just want to invite us to, since we're a small group too, I think we have time, just how are you arriving today? And what spoke to you in that opening, if anything, spoke to you in Rachel Naomi Remen's words? Yeah, what would you like to share with that? And anybody can pick up the piece and go first.
Mary, thank you so much for choosing that as the theme today. I was particularly touched by it, and it was something that I've been kind of thinking about in my professional life, I think, more than anything. And I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I wanted to perhaps move my life into more of the area of service, because I have been too much in the fixing and the helping part. And I've participated in some activities here in Costa Rica, for example, where the intention is to help, and I think that's very noble and so forth. But I always wanted to move it a little bit more. Like, for example, in children's activities, for example, and community activities, and I noticed that when I worked in low-income neighborhoods in the United States, there was that sense of helping, and so the person you're helping feels like they're the victim, or they need to be helped, and that kind of thing. So I always wanted to kind of change that dynamic, and I think that by incorporating the concept of service goes in that direction. And so it's something that I've been thinking about for many years. And so thank you so much for making it so clear with that poem, or that phrase.
Okay, I would like to take the talking piece. Thank you, Christine. Today I am arriving very full and satisfied. I just had a huge breakfast. And at the same time, I am grateful, for being here on a Sunday. I feel relaxed. I don't have to be thinking about other meetings or or classes, so I am feeling super present to this session. I think that something that I feel identified with this that we read is the fact that whenever I try to fix or to help, it's like I expect something to change, like in the outside. And since I read this, because I think I have read it before from you, Mary, or Iván, and I just started like thinking and reflecting on, why I do things, in certain situations, and how every action that I take is enriching my life instead of like expecting something to change, or so I feel like a flow, like everything flows and everything is maybe not easier. but it's like it's less controlling from my behalf. So I really like that. I really like feeling like I am serving my own life when I serve others. Yeah. Thank you. Put the talking piece back in the center.
Thank you for all the reflections. This new phrase, or the short that you share, it's something, it's like a new perspective for me. I never seen or listened something like that, and it resonates with me in the part, and like what I'm seeing in my life, like in the different scenarios that I am as a adult or as a woman. Like, I don't need to fix anything of my life because it's nothing wrong with me, or it's nothing wrong with others. It's just life. And that part is very beautiful because I think as a popular thing, we know how to try to fix things or people or many things in our life to take the control of. I don't want to anything get wrong or be wrong because I want to like take care of each details, but that is fixing, no living. So that was very beautiful for me. Thank you for bringing that today. It gives me a new perspective.
Thank you. I can pick up. I am arriving a little bit tired. I've been busy for the last past few weeks. Been in complexity, living in complexity. So this is a great section of this passage, and one line that talks to me now is service brings gratitude. I've been working with my daughters and my wife on gratitude. What like trying to spot gratitude. Say, oh, this brings gratitude to my life. And I've been trying to change the word help when I ask my two daughters to help with chores. It doesn't work when I say in Spanish, ayuda, necesito su ayuda. It doesn't work. I don't know why. But then I'm using a collaboration. So we need some collaboration. Would you like to collaborate? And it's working now better. So by using just the word help, and I get it, right? So as I see the contribution when I say collaboration, so serving, it's beautiful, and I see it's something bigger than helping. So yeah, but as Christine said, Mary was a great selection. Mary selected this, and it's a great selection because I've been reading like 4 times today. The slide, I say yes, a big yes. And I'm so happy and excited to have Natalie, Darcy, and Christine, and Mary all together today. And the recording, the ones watching the recording too. Thank you. Pass the talking piece to Mary.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just looking at the time in Australia because a number of the other people who had signed up for this are in Australia. I was like, it was 3:20 in the morning. That's a good reason to not be here. So I'm arriving a little sick, as you can hear, a little tired, but I just got up from resting for a while. So I think I have enough stamina for the call. And as I mentioned, it's I could be sick online with anybody, the 4 of you, just be wonderful to be sick with you. So it's a beautiful, beautiful day. And as far as this helping, fixing, and serving, I just love it. I think that when I return to the idea of serving, my life is always enriched and I'm always feeling grateful and good. When I'm in fixing and helping mode, I don't always feel so good. I find myself being more anxious, more annoyed, more like forceful, wanting to change something. And I think it's complex to stay in serving mode, but I know that when I do, I feel so much better. So, and I think this leads into our theme today of complexity. But before we dive into that, we just want to do a quick review of the other webinars. This is the 4th webinar in this series. And whether you were here or not, just a quick review. And maybe since it's the 4th and we've done this a couple times, I'm not sure, is there something somebody would like to say or ask about liminal space, holding space, or hijacking space? One thing that's coming to my mind is when I think about liminal space and I think about the ideas in helping, fixing, and serving. When someone's in liminal space and I want to help or fix them, I end up hijacking. I think, rather than holding space. In order for me to hold space for someone in liminal space, I feel like I need to have the server stance, the serving stance.
One thing that comes to mind, Mary, when reading the definition of holding space is the last sentence that says, we open our hearts and offer unconditional support, thinking about the different ways I can offer this kind of support. It could be using words, doing something, just keeping silence, praying. So different ways I can offer this support. It's so beautiful to experience this my own and seeing other people holding space for myself or my family, and see a different unconditional support coming in the impact in our lives.
Darcy, I'm curious what you're thinking.
I'm thinking, thank you, Mary.
If you want to
I
share,
am
you don't have to, but
yes,
I'm
yes,
curious.
I do. I do. It's just that for me, I think I would love to have more information. I was actually thinking, like exploring a little bit more in hijacking space. Because sometimes, well, I have found myself like still recognizing what are those social conditions that are so interiorized in me, that sometimes that unconsciousness may be supernatural, you know. So I'm in that place where I am trying, you know, all the time to recognize what may be, or clarifying, you know, what may be like manipulation that comes from that, from this culture that is so deep in me and in others. So when I think about hijacking space, it catches my attention because I am recognizing it and exploring it a little bit more in this moment in my life. I think about that, like first, like analyzing, or I want to analyze and recognize what are those social conditions that are so deep in me. Yeah. So when am I manipulating, or when is someone manipulating me, and it's so difficult. It's very difficult because it's so in us, right? And I do this and I try to analyze, especially with my son. You know, I try to see when he feels pain or he gets angry, or when I say something and then I just realize and I verbalize that to him. Like, I'm trying to figure out, Nico, if this is something I'm doing that is manipulative, and how did you feel? Like, we try to discuss that. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, sometimes it's so deep in me. And that's very cruel and sad, you know. Good thing is that we can identify it. Right? Yeah.
I'll pick up. Darcy, I definitely feel the same way. I think that it's been a way of being socialized for sure. And it's just a lifelong process, right? For me, in different contexts. But just becoming aware of this concept of either hijacking space or taking space, or gives me another way to think about it. It's an amazing tool for sure. And it's not a change that goes from one day to the next. And I didn't grow up in a world where we were aware of that. Even though we talked about empowerment growing up, I think this is like a fundamental aspect of empowerment, that yeah, I didn't grow up with. So yeah, I can relate to you on that. Thank you. Mhm.
Darcy, thank you so much for making those comments. And I feel maybe a little bit on the reverse side of all of that. Like I'm still fairly new to the concept of holding space, and then unfortunately I haven't attended the other webinars, but one of the things that perhaps it's a trauma, I'm not too sure, but I've in some social settings I've been considered as passive. I've been called passive. You know, some people have expected like certain emotions of leadership out of me, that actually I should make judgments, or I should make statements, or I should do things. And so I think I sometimes have a battle between what would be considered passive and what would be considered judgment. You know, so because maybe there is a social sense that I don't want to be judgmental, or I don't want to give my opinion or do things that might offend. And so instead of speaking my thoughts or what have you, sorry, I'm a little sentimental, I don't know why. I tend to be more analytical or quiet. I might ask questions, but it doesn't necessarily mean, however, that I'm holding space, you know. And so I'm still working through a lot of that to find that good balance between the holding space part and not just kind of crawling in my own shell, not wanting to participate. So I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but I think this process of working through holding space and understanding the concepts and learning the tools is incredibly helpful for me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Christine, what I think I hear you saying is that you don't want to be hijacking space, and so you're holding back. And you'd like to be holding space, but that might also not be the moment you feel that skill come out. Did I get that right? Yeah. And so then,
Yes, that's correct.
yeah. So you're not, yeah, but you'd like to. I can hear your the depth of your hopes that you'd like to hold space with people. Yeah. Or like to show up in some way that feels good and feels right. And sometimes I don't feel like I necessarily grew up in a world. I think that's why I'm so attracted to holding space. I didn't really grow up with these skills either. And the more I practice and try them out, the more they work for me. I'm like, oh, it's good. That worked. Yeah. And even though I make mistakes and fumble and things like that, that's part of holding space too. You know, fumbling is one of our skills.
But it's those skills that I'm really looking forward to learning and working through. So thank you.
Nice. Yeah, thanks, Christine. Thanks so much. I'm going to move forward to week 2 or webinar 2, where we talked about holding space for ourselves. And there's a lot of different aspects involved in each of the modules in this course. So in this one webinar, we don't go into all of them, but in the course we do. And in this one, we went into tenderness and universal human needs. And really looking at how we're all humans trying to get our needs met. And if we treat ourselves from a place of tenderness, how empowering that is and how beautiful that is. So I'm not sure if there's anything here that you want to mention or think about or ask about from the second webinar, which was about module 2. Or Iván, if there's anything that you want to say or add about
I like to say that I've been practicing mindfulness now with more with a frequency, and I'll see how mindfulness is creating space in myself so I can hold space for others. So it's so beautiful to see one practice supports my space or creates much more space. So when I feel that I don't have space, that I'm losing control, and I know some of my needs are not getting met, I go back to mindfulness as a practice, and then so I can bring more space. I just wanted to share that experience from the terms, the concepts on the screen.
Thanks, Iván. Thanks so much. I think I'm going to move on to the module 3 or week webinar 3. Just a little view and a review, and then we'll get into our complexity stuff for today. But in the last webinar, we talked about the structure, actually, of how we sit together, and which is called the circle and circle way, and these practices that we have of how we interact with each other in terms of speaking with attention and listening, speaking with intention, choosing, speaking from our heart, which we've been doing already today. So it's really beautiful. Listening with attention to what people are saying, and really taking care of everybody who's in the circle, and also valuing silence. That silence is okay too. So I'm curious if there's anything from this slide and from the last webinar that anybody wants to say or ask or offer. And I'll put the talking piece in the middle.
Perhaps one of the things that kind of connects with what I was speaking about before, when you talk about the 4 practices to speak with intention, and noting whether or not what you have to say has relevance to the conversation. I've been in so many social settings where, whether it's a community group or political situation, what have you, that there are people who like to speak just to hear themselves talk, is what I tend to say. And so I almost struggle too much with that, where there are probably things I'd like to communicate, but I don't want to be seen as that person that only talks to hear themselves speak. So this kind of practice would be nice for more people to interiorize and get to know. So thank you for sharing this part of it and doing the review of these webinars. These webinars, it really helps me a lot.
I really like to see on that slide. I think I wasn't part of the session number 3. So it's the first time that I read the concept, value the silence, and it resonates with me a lot, because when I'm not feeling like good with inside of me, silence is a big part of myself, and that makes me recognize that I really want to value or give more value to my silence when I'm not feeling good, because I don't want to share when I'm feeling inside, because I holding myself in the middle of the silence. And I'm being recognizing that when I'm not feeling well, I just want to be quiet. And that way I hold myself in the silence, because I just listen inside of me, and I'm recovering from the inside, and that's okay. I don't want to, I'm learning how to say, I don't want to talk. I just want to listen myself in the silence. And I think that is being powerful in my life right now, because sometimes when I'm not feeling well and my partner is trying to ask me how are you doing? What are you feeling? And so I just want to be quiet. And that the power that I say I don't want to talk is so powerful for me right now. And seeing that on the slide makes me feel like, yeah, that's good for me to see that that is not just the I don't want to talk, that is part of the um, for how I can hold myself too.
That's so interesting, Natalie, what you're sharing. I'd like to share two things here. Number one, our friends, Raj Gill from Canada, uses a phrase that I love. It says, when the emotion is strong, the pause is long. And I have talked to her twice about this phrase, and I say, Raj, what am I doing in the pause? Because it sounds that pause is passive, but I think that the pause is active. What am I supposed to do in the pause? There's been great conversations, and in your story, Natalie, like you need a space, right? And how to communicate that you need a space, and then people value silence, and you value silence, right? I have a couple of experience of people. I'm a brother, so I told my brother what was going on. I think it's last week, and his reaction was, "Why you were in silence? Why not communicating? Why not saying? Why not? We are here. Why you are like isolated? Why?" And I said, "That's why I was keeping this myself. I just want to create silence and space for myself in silence, and it's so powerful." So it's so beautiful to see how much I value silence. And I see others when others need silence in a space to value that and honor it is so important. And as Christine was saying, it's a skill. It's not something else, it's in me, right? It's something I need to practice and be good with that, be okay with that, and and value that silence. Thank you.
I would like to take the talking piece. And I just loved what Iván said about that it is a skill. And something happened to me this week. I haven't been talking with a friend. She's going through so much. And I have been going through so much these days. And I remember that she told me what she was going through a few weeks ago, and then she stopped texting. And I just felt so identified when Iván said, you recognize now when people need silence, when you value it, right? And yesterday, I saw her in the supermarket, and I just screamed at her, hey, and we hugged. And the minute I hugged her, she said, don't ask me anything because it's too painful. I just want to be here. And immediately she was very emotional, and I just hugged her and we started crying. And I said, I won't, let's just keep it this way. And then when she got home and I came back home, she texted me and she said, it was so nice to see you. Sorry that I didn't answer before. And I just told her, this is, for me, silence implies that you're just processing so much, right? And it means also that I can hold your pain and your process in silence, I said to her. And she said, oh my God, that is so relieving, she said, because I was so afraid that you were mad or that you were, going to feel like I wasn't there and I didn't care about you. So I just so feel that I love how silence is also very powerful in creating connection and like building stronger relationships, right? It is just something that I, for the first time, see as part of us also, right? As an essential part of our processes. So I am so glad that I can recognize it, and I could also create a space for other people's silence now.
That is really beautiful and powerful, everything that you all have shared. Yeah, it's an interesting, I'm thinking about this, some quote around how, I forget how it is, but it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. And how in our circle, we value silence, and in our lives, we value silence, and don't jump to assumptions around what somebody else's silence means. That's a big step for me, and so empowering and so beautiful. But to be able to be patient and hold space for someone who doesn't want to use words, that's beautiful. So, and to help others learn how to do that, right? By saying, hey, I don't want to talk right now, but I will talk later. But right now, I need some silence. Being able to say that and make sure that they know that it's not a silence of rejection, it's a silence of introspection, right? It's a silence of processing, it's a silence of being. So yeah, that's beautiful. And it leads into the themes that we wanted to dive into today. I'm going to skip this slide because I feel like we just started talking about that a little bit as we were going. It leads into this idea of being present in complexity, holding space in complex situations. And I know that all of us have complex situations that are holding space. So before diving into the words, I'm curious if any of these images speak to you. And you think about complexity of the situations where you're holding space. Do any of these images speak to you in any way?
Oh yeah, I feel so identified with number 2 right now. I mean, I don't feel curious. I just feel connected with number 2. Thank you.
No.
I love number 2. It looks like it has a beginning and end. You see it both sides. But I don't see inside of it. I don't see where it goes. What's the end? So looks so busy inside and heavy. Yeah, but I know there's an end. I know there's an end, but inside I don't see it. But I know that somewhere the end is.
I like number 4. It's the same space, but each one is different, and each one is different too. But they live in the same space. So I like how each animal is part of the same ecosystem, but it lives different too. Like they're part of it, but they live their life different.
I like what you said, Darcy, about having an end and seeing hope. It was interesting. I was thinking about that image and whether to put it in or not, because it felt like it had this beginning and an end. I'm glad that, but I like it too. I think that complexity, is the complexity is when there are multiple parts that work together, but are sometimes hard to see and hard to figure out, or hard to touch into. So for me, all of these touch on different aspects of complexity. The first one, sort of the mechanical gears all working together, but separately. And then, of course, number 2, yes, yes. And then 3 is an image from sacred geometry, that everything has its place. And I like that, thinking about the complexity. It helps me think about when the opening, Rachel Naomi Remen's ideas about serving, and how when I'm serving wholeness, like I think of 3 and 4 as everything has a wholeness to it. Everything has a place, a sacredness to it. And every part, I might not be able to touch into every part or understand every part, but they're all working together to create wholeness and sacredness. And I put number 5 in too, because I think it's sometimes complexity can be a, what do you call this? It's like a puzzle, right? It's a, I forget the word in English and in Spanish. You know, but
Un laberinto.
well, no, it's more like if you look at it, you can look at it one way, and so if you look at it one way, you see one image. If you look at it a different way, you see something. It's like it's a visual puzzle. That it makes you see things that are or are not there. You know, it looks like it's a 3D image that could sit differently. I don't know how to put it into words, which is pretty complex. So thinking about that, there's different ways of kind of visualizing complexity. When we think about holding space and complexity, the themes that we go into in this module are different parts of things that impact how we hold space. And I just want to highlight, there's not like one way to do it. There's not a perfect way to do it. And to me, these are like a lifelong learning process around some of these topics. So we think about having safe space and then having brave space. And that might mean different things for different people in different moments. We're striving to become trauma informed, because that is something that now, the more we learn about trauma and the impact of trauma and traumatization, it's really going to impact how we hold space. It makes it more complex, right? Understanding power, status, rank, privilege, oppression, intersectionality, all of that adds layers and helps us see layers of our lives that maybe we haven't seen before, worked with before, but they have a big impact on how we experience life. And then conflict prevention, resolution, and transformation is also something that, you know, our approach to that makes a big difference. And then the last two, holding space without words and seeking and honoring sovereignty. Those are the main topics. Today, Iván and I chose 2 different topics to dive into. So I'm going to start out with safe space and brave space, and then Iván's going to go into number 7, honoring and seeking and honoring sovereignty. And then we'll have another conversation right here in this room. Let's dive in. So when we think about safe spaces, like creating a safe space for holding space, these are some ideas that came for me. Like when I feel like I'm safe with somebody, I feel I'm welcomed, I feel respected, I feel like I belong. I feel like whoever's holding space for me has a sense of care and thoughtfulness around me and respect. I usually grow in some kind of, like, I feel like I'm able to be myself and feel myself, which means I grow in my own knowledge of myself and my social emotional reality. I'm able to have clear and transparent conflict. I would say prevention, resolution, and transformation. I'm using those 3 terms together now myself. But I'm curious, when you look at these in humor in a way that no one's belittled, and then we feel safe enough to make mistakes, is there anything you would add about your experience of being in a safe space?
One thing I would like to add, Mary, is to when I'm in a safe space, I'm able to open up myself and share my ideas, and I can learn, or I can go through different process to learn. I can ask for support too when I'm learning. So I can be free to open and say what my ideas are, including when ideas are different. My ideas are different, so because I'm safe, I can share my idea and say, hey, this is what I'm in my mind. I'd like to learn more about this. I'm curious more about this. That's one thing I like to share.
I would like to add authenticity and freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add that when I'm in a safe space, I can be vulnerable.
Yes, all of those are certainly relevant, or they speak to me as well, that have been spoken. I was wondering though that when we're in a safe space, if it has to be among people that are empathetic or understanding, because I wonder if you can create a safe space for yourself, although there is judgment coming back. I don't know if I'm able to express myself correctly, but I'm wondering that if someone feels a certain level of self-confidence, that they can create a safe space in various environments. That's kind of a question instead of a statement. I don't know if maybe Iván or Mary could help with answering what I'm trying to ask. If that makes any sense, because
Yeah,
I think that
absolutely. That would be the goal, right?
uh-huh.
The think about nonviolent communication. Can I receive the jackal energy with the giraffe energy? Can I hear with my giraffe ears? Can I hear from a safe space for myself? And I think that's an interesting question. It's like, who creates the safe space? Can I create it for myself within myself? Right? And can I extend it and co-create a shared space for us with you? But I definitely think it's a co-creation, for sure. And that co-creation really does depend on some level. I'm thinking that it depends on each of us being able to create a safe holding space for ourselves and being able to create that for ourselves.
Thank you for helping me with that.
My opinion. That's my opinion. There are many.
Thank you.
Let's move on to brave space. So brave space is another term now that when we're thinking about holding space for people, it's not either or. It's not safe or brave. Although I think some people, well, Heather's done some interesting shifting in her thinking. And one thing she said is that she's now thinking more about sometimes we need to stay in safe spaces more than have the goal being a brave space. Like the goal might be safe space, right? The goal might be brave space. But it's brave space, what I think is really wonderful in name are some of these things that we can live with controversy with civility. We live it with civility. We can be civil around we can be kind and curious around our disagreements. We own our own intention, but also the impact. So often people will say, well, that wasn't what I meant, and take that as a sort of as an excuse, as opposed to, oh, let's say I said the sky is blue and you say, no, it's not, it's green. I'm like, no, it's blue. And you're wrong. And then the person's like, well, I'm offended that you're saying I'm wrong. It's like, well, I didn't mean to offend you, right? It's not my intention was not to offend, but that was the impact. So can I own that impact? That's something that creates a brave space. I can say, wow, I hear that, when I said you were wrong, that really had a hard impact. That really hurt. And I'm so sorry that hurt. I can only impact without changing my intention or without changing my truth or my authenticity. Right. So how, if we start to, on some level, respond to how we impact each other, we can create a braver space. Doesn't mean that, because if the other interesting thing about brave spaces is that it means we're getting into territory that inevitably we might offend each other. We might say things that hurt. And it's not the intention. At the same time, we need to just learn about the impact. Oh, okay, now that's what's going on for you. Okay. Right. So another aspect of brave space is challenging each other by choice. Like we step up to the challenge. We choose to do that. We don't force anybody to do that, but we choose choose to step up and say, okay, I want to dive into this difficult conversation or this area that's hard to figure out. So we respect each other and practice no attacks, right? And no attacks are allowed. So those are some aspects of brave space. And yeah, Darcy, let's dive in.
I have a question here because I'm really curious about this part of the impact. That for me, it has been very powerful, like in my relationships, like the recognition of that impact, of what I said or what I did or what people said or did. But my question is, for me, recognition or recognizing that impact and accepting it takes a lot of vulnerability as well. Like, so I am just wondering if this part of, you need to be perfect and you cannot make mistakes. And if you do something not the way I think it's good, then you're wrong. Like we are told that since we're little. Like I was definitely told that when I was little, in school, in my house, and it is so hard it is so hard to be vulnerable, and not only for me, but I see it in others too, and I just see that there's a lot of fear, like behind, being vulnerable. Like it represents weakness. So I'm wondering how we could, just deconstruct that barrier of, recognizing the impact. It sounds easy. However, for me, it takes a lot of, vulnerability. So that will be my question. Like, I'm just curious, like, how could we support that and hold vulnerability?
One thing I'm thinking about, Darcy, is how do we talk about impact without getting involved in blame and shame? Because if I said something that has a negative impact on you, I'm going to feel shame or I'm going to blame myself. When it, in truth is, I could say to you, the sky is blue, and you saying, no, it's green. Or, I don't know if that's a useful example, but your impact about being wrong for one person, they might take it as like, oh, I was wrong, I didn't realize it is blue. Another person would say, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm wrong, I can't believe that or, oh, Mary, she's so mean, she's calling me out in public, she's so it depends on how we take and see this the experience of impact and talking about impact and receiving it, right? And I would need to be safe in myself to hear, like, if I've impacted you negatively, I'd like to know that for sure. But I have to be in a space where I can also hear it. And I have to have a certain sense of comfort with myself, safety within myself, to hear that I've done something that might have stimulated pain. Right? And that's sort of a stamina, I think, that I'm building, trying to build. I'll put pass the talking piece in the center.
I can pick up, Mary. There's a great context to practice brave space and holding space. I'm also thinking about the intention. Yeah. So when I see the impact, it's not related. It's not what I was trying to do or say. I might go back to the intention. What was my intention of when I was saying or asking this question, or bringing this topic up in the conversation? So I can go back to the intention to see, okay, this is what I'm trying to. Maybe if there's a chance, there's a space, I can try it again. Except acknowledging that I was an impact, and then maybe you just saying, yeah, I see that I see this is your understanding. I see this is what you're getting, but this is my intention, and I'm gonna try it again. And another thing is, it is also my experience. I think there are just few people I can be vulnerable with. I cannot be vulnerable with everyone I know, including family members. So, and one of the reasons is because I see they see vulnerability as a weakness, as you were saying, but it's not weakness. It's the opposite. Right. So when I know a person might be misunderstanding my vulnerability or having an opinion or a judgment, I say, I'm trying not to be vulnerable before this person. Yeah. So thank you, Darcy.
I have an example that happened to me actually with this that might be an interesting one just to share. And it's not family, it's not super personal, it's with a neighbor. I was driving down the road here a few weeks ago, and I was driving fast because there was an emergency, and there was a neighbor down the road with her dog, and I slowed down, but I could see terror on her face as I was driving down the road. To me, I interpreted it as terror, thinking, oh my God, am I going to hurt her dog? And her dog got out of the way. Everything was fine, but I felt bad because I thought, oh my God, that poor woman was afraid for, her dog or something. And a week or two after that, she was walking on the street, and I picked her up and to give her a ride. And I said, hey, I'm so sorry if I scared you the other day. It wasn't my intention. I was running to an emergency, and I wasn't being as careful, and I'm really sorry if it scared you. And had that impact. And she said, yeah, I was a little scared, but it's okay. But it was nice to be able to talk to her, that you could see, I could see the impact. It wasn't my intention to scare her, but it happened. Right. And sometimes I think that with a neighbor or somebody who doesn't have as close to me is even easier than somebody who's very close to me. It's interesting. So the question for me is always, how do I develop this skill with the people that I'm close to? How do we do that? Yeah. So I'm going to
sorry, Mary, that's a great example. Could I just share something really quickly too, kind of a personal anecdote as well?
Yeah, of course.
Yesterday I was teaching a yoga class and to a woman out of Central Florida. And she's a beautiful Black woman, and we got into kind of a political discussion and so forth. And we were kind of discussing what Central Florida is like, because it's very conservative. And I used the phrase white bread, or I had, chosen the word white to refer to the people living in that area. And then I noticed that she casually offered the word Caucasian into the conversation. Then we did the yoga class, and I kept having this feeling inside my head about perhaps I used the wrong terminology, and I was kind of feeling shame through the situation. And at the end of the class, we continued our discussion about politics and things. And I expressed to her, I found the braveness within me, and I asked her if what I had said was offensive or what have you. And she was so open and so loving and so wonderful about expressing, no, I just used the word Caucasian because that's just what I use, but I'm Black, you're white, what up? So, but I think that not having had this kind of holding space or brave space conversations and my friendship with you, Mary, I don't think I would have lost that shame within me. I would have just felt that needling within me and not having excused myself or brought it to the attention. And so I hope I'm growing through all of this. So thank you for listening to my personal situation.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it. I think I'm growing. I think we're all growing. I'm going to move forward now to Iván's part here with talking about sovereignty. I'm going to turn off my camera for just a minute. I will be right back. And I'm going to leave you, Iván.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was a beautiful conversation about brave space, safe space. We turn it, moving into seeking sovereignty. On the screen, you have Heather's split definition of sovereignty within the holding space. And then we'll read, I'm going to give you a few seconds to read the definition, and then I'm going to be talking using these questions. I'd like to start telling you, I'm going to check first if you have enough time to read the definition so we can move on. Or you need more, we can take more time. Let me just check. Do we take enough time to read the definition? Okay. I'd like to start with a little story. When I was in school in the 80s in Nicaragua, after revolution, everything was about sovereignty, and everything was sovereign. So I remember, and when I was in primary school, we had a snack. We have a Russian chocolate cookie coming from Russia, and then they call the sovereign snack. So we also have food at school. So we also have the sovereign meal. It was a sovereign week, the sovereign month, everything was about sovereignty. And it was so beautiful to hear. And that was a new word for me, and I was in love with the word. But then I realized it was just a word. I didn't feel sovereign. And then this is a word like in politics and international agreements, many people use. But when I took the foundation of the holding space course, when I found this and this definition, I was like, I love this. I love this. I love the definition of sovereignty, and it has to do with liberation. It has to do with myself. So, what does sovereignty mean to you? Maybe based on your experience, and using the definition, and you feel sovereign? I put the talking piece in the center.
I'll pick up the talking piece. I think it's interesting to think about just how we grew up, like, or how I grew up. And here I have agency and autonomy, and I'm not controlled or manipulated by anyone. Oh my God. That would be like, I love the word agency. I think it's a word that is not often used as much. And I think it's a word that's growing, like the idea that I have the power and the knowledge and the skills to choose how I act. I think it's complicated. That's why this is part of complexity, because not everybody feels like they have a sense of agency. But part of it is that, you know, like in that creating myself space for myself is developing a sense of agency for myself. And I think it's hard to learn how to not be manipulated by people. I think that's, but I feel like this is a really nice aspirational goal. Like I'd love to move in that direction. And I definitely feel I have a strong sense of sovereignty, but I think it's also a goal to move towards.
I like the word. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I like the concept. And I think I'm being applying that to my life. I think I feel very free to choose in my life, and I've been choosing different things and stuff. But I related more this to work and how I feel with work, because I live to so many works already. And sometimes I feel, because I hear for someone that says that no, you have to support that, you have to be there, because you don't know why when you're not going to have another job opportunity. But I can choose to live where I don't feeling good. I can decide where I want to work. I can decide where I want to grow with. So it resonates with me a lot, the part that it says I get to choose who I am in a relationship. And that also it's related with me, not with just the family and people who I love and I choose to live with. It also resonates to where I grow in my professional life. Yeah, because I heard for someone like a family member for a very close friend. She quit a job, and the family was so mad at her because she quit. She quit the job because she chose her freedom in a certain way. And I said to her that I quit so many jobs already because I didn't feel like respect, and I feel okay with that. And she was so relieved that she wasn't the only one who is choosing his safety, and I don't know, many things that you can choose in your life. But I think it's very powerful when you choose what you love or you like.
That's a great example. Another, thank you for sharing the story of your friend. And then how important it is to practice this in family circles, right? Or in communities, right? That we value and honor sovereignty. Right? It's not only accepting and supporting, but also cultivating sovereignty in each other. That's so beautiful. Thank you. And then I value your sovereignty, Natalie. And I see you're also, as Mary was saying, right? This is a goal. I see Natalie, you're moving in a sovereign woman, a sovereign human being. Yeah. With a talking piece in the center. Christine, I don't know if you are talking. I see you're moving your head, but you're mute in case you're talking.
Sorry, I'm struggling with my dog that's here with me right now. But I was wanting to comment that what a beautiful experience that father and daughter can be together sharing some of these anecdotes and personal experiences, and that's very beautiful to hear between the two of you. I guess the concept of sovereignty is something that I'm learning too. I think that sometimes I felt a certain responsibility to stay in a relationship or stay in a friendship, what have you, out of guilt or out of a sense of wanting to help, wanting to fix. And so now gaining the ability to put boundaries and limit my personal space, and not having to be the one who's so social and always going out and having to give of myself has been a process. And I'm appreciating a lot more the alone time, whereas before I felt very guilty for, I guess, perhaps taking that time for myself. So I'm appreciating the concept of sovereignty, and I very much appreciated your story also, Iván, of your time in the 80s and coming out of the situation that caused so much harm to people in Nicaragua, and it's still having its effects to this day. So thank you for sharing that part.
Thank you, Christine. I see the time, so we have around 10 minutes. And I move on, we have a little practice, Mary, if we move to the next. So let's do a little practice so we can do some body movement. So it's, how do I know? How do I know I'm a sovereign person? Sovereignty, it's in me. How is it manifested in my body? How do I know I'm making decisions and I'm not under control or manipulated? And I'm a sovereign person making my own decisions, as the story of Natalie and her friend. How do you see in your body? So if you can take a few seconds and think about maybe a body posture, maybe a face. If you're using body language, maybe any other body parts, maybe your hands or your shoulder. How is sovereignty manifested in your body? If you can show it, that would be great. Take a few seconds just to think about it. I can go first. One thing that I have observed in my body, when I feel that I'm sovereign, that I'm making my own decisions, and I'm free, I'm liberated, I have a kind of a smiley face. My muscles are relaxed and my face, and then I have kind of a smiley face. And my shoulders are also light. Light, and my face is kind of a smiling. And I see, oh, as a manifestation of sovereignty. Anyone would like to share?
I'll pick up the piece. I had a little memory of just when I touched my hand to the chest. I had a memory of a moment last week, I think, where excuse me, I was I felt like I experienced sovereignty, and I did this exact gesture in the moment. I had walked into a store that sells glasses. I was thinking about getting a new pair of glasses. My other glasses are big blue glasses, and I would like a new pair. And I started looking around, and the woman, the salesperson was there, just immediately started. She asked what I wanted to do. She started telling me about my glasses, and I just stopped her. I said, "Hey, I have no space for advice or opinions right now. I just want to look." And I had my hand right here. I was like, "I just want to look at what you have. Would it be okay for you if you don't talk to me until I ask you a question?" And she was like, but for me, that was sort of like sovereignty of my own space. I just didn't have space for more information. I just wanted to look. And it was I felt in my body. So I put my hand here. But as I was saying it, it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was like protecting myself. I just felt this calm. I felt this calmness in my chest, and just like, hey, I just don't want to listen right now. I don't have space. So I was calm. And I felt it in my upper chest. I just felt this calm, grounding, nice feeling. by sort of having some sovereignty over what I'm hearing in that moment. So yeah, that's my story.
When I feel sovereign, I'm sorry. It remembers like when I feel relief, like this act in your body when something big is already past or over. And yeah, that's remind me that action in my body, and it feels good when that happened.
I would
What
agree
I
with, sorry.
go, Christine.
I would agree with Natalie as well. That's the sensation I have, kind of that deep breath, alivio. Yep. Thank you.
What I have noticed is that when I'm feeling sovereign, I get more active. Like I like to walk, or I like to exercise, or I feel like more free to of movement. I like to be moving a lot. When I don't have it, I get like very slow. My body gets very slow, and also my thoughts. Like I'm just not thinking, or I just don't want to do anything. Yeah, that's what I have noticed.
Thank you for sharing. I see this feeling of peace in our body, or the tension, the lightness. Darcy was describing it, lightness. I can do many things, right? And this relief, right? So yeah, you're right, Darcy. I was thinking about what is something I feel when I'm not sovereign, and I'm controlled and manipulated. I feel this tensions on my shoulders, like heaviness, and my face is just like this. There's something inside of me. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Mary, we can move to, I see we have, maybe we can move to the last slide, Mary. Does that also include this? Yes. I'd like to lead in this, Mary.
Sure. These are just questions for all of us. I don't think we need to go to a breakout room. But as we wrap up today, what are some thoughts in your mind? What come to your mind when thinking about complexity, safe space, brave space, and sovereignty? And is there any other particular story from your life that comes up that you want to share? We have just a couple minutes. But what's coming up for you now? What would you like to share about today's content and session?
I'd like to take the talking space right now. We're looking at the images of complexity. I didn't respond as to which one spoke to me, but I think number one with the cogs and the gears and so forth. And so I think that so many things in my life are complex because there's so many moving parts. You know, this will affect this thing and the other will do that. And so I think that's kind of how I look at the complexity of my life right now. And being able to slow the cogs down or to separate them maybe, or what have you, and putting in boundaries and limiting the space that I provide to certain cogs in the wheel. It's kind of a direction I'm going, and allowing myself that sovereignty to do that. So that's my comment. Thank you.
I would like to share one of my goals this year, a very particular one that I wrote. It was like, I want to stay married this year, like to continue being married. And I didn't know how hard it's going to be, because I started recognizing when I'm a hijacker in my relationship, and in how much braveness it needs to be in myself to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that or do that to you, or input that in my what I was in my mind. And yeah, it's hard. At least for me, it's hard to recognize and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, because I am learning how to do that. And I feel like sometimes I feel guilty and I want to recognize and say, but when I say it and I recognize that I didn't mean to do that or say that, it feels powerful in the relationship and also with myself.
I'm gonna pick up after Natalie. What I'm taking away from today is I'm work in progress. Mary shared the co-creating a safe space together with community members, with family, with friends, with students, with teachers, with the world, and moving from safe space to brave space, and understanding that I'm doing my best in complexity. And I know you all four know that Natalie is my daughter, but the people watching maybe they might not know that Natalie is my daughter. And we're being in complexity, Natalie. And I know maybe we can write a blog, Natalie, on what complexity is in the family and working on difficult, challenging situations and moving on. So, and I'm so blessed by being with Natalie and having these type of conversations. And so thank you for the opportunity of co-creating this opportunity for Natalie and me to be working and talking about these big things in life. Thank you.
Well, I would like to take the talking piece. What I'm taking from today is that in the complexity I am right now, I would like to continue working on healthy boundaries. Yeah, for myself and others around me. I was very scared of setting boundaries, and they are healthy. They are healthy.
I should share the link of Heather's TED blog on sovereignty. If you would like to read more about it.
Yeah, what I'm taking from today, that's just a deep sense of gratitude. I think talking about these concepts and reflecting a little bit on our own experiences, on my experiences, just helps me clarify, and it helps me strengthen my own understandings and I think my skills. So I'm just really grateful that you all came and that we had this time together. It's really beautiful and very special. And thank all the people that are watching the video that weren't able to actually come today. We're grateful to you as well. And we hope that this video has offered some meaningful insights for you. I want to share, actually, Iván, can you talk about this for a minute? I need to cough.
I was getting ready with the bell. Yeah, so we have different learning opportunities with holding space. As you can see, so we have different courses and opportunities, and then face-to-face and online. So the foundation course is online with room to take a course. The full body life course, the community it's in progress. And now Know Yourself, Free Yourself is another course that we do it every year. And Returning
Well,
Costa Rica.
I'm gonna move ahead and just show the
Okay.
The slides that go with it. I'm back now. Sorry, I needed to cough.
Okay, go ahead.
So one upcoming opportunity for people is the Holding Space Foundation program. And this was module 4 today. What we're trying to do is just give you a little taste of each module. And so you can go to the website and find that information if you'd like. Module 4 addresses all of these questions. So if any of those questions are exciting to you or interesting to you, we talked a little bit about, brave space and safe space and sovereignty. And then there's a lot of issues around complexity. So the online course, A Full-Bodied Life in Course and Community, is ongoing. It's going right now. If something you wanted to join, you could join it at any time. And it's Heather's most recent course. It involves doing some activities and then one call every 2 weeks. It's all optional. It's all optional. Know Yourself, Free Yourself, she'll be doing again next year. It's an 8-week course where she talks to a lot of these people here, these pictures that you can see here, and shares a lot of amazing wisdom around what it means to hold space for yourself and really know yourself. We're having some retreats here in Costa Rica next year. Too, we're going to have a time for tenderness from March 9 through 14, and the art of holding space from the 14th to the 18th, at a place close to where where 4 of the 5 of us are living. So that's another opportunity. Heather has a free ebook called The House That Tenderness Built. It's fantastic book. Really helps develop the stance of, if tenderness were talking to me right now, what would tenderness say? She also has a new book coming out in January, Where Tenderness Lives. And we're looking forward to seeing that. It's coming out in January. And of course, her first book, The Art of Holding Space. So those are all different opportunities that are out there. If you guys would like more. And we have one more webinar in this series, which will be early October. I forget the day, 6th, 5th or 6th. I'll check. And you're all welcome to that. So thank you all so much. Iván, would you like to ring us out?
I can do that. I have an electronic bell ready. Ringing the bell now. Can you hear the bell?
Iván, can you share sound from your computer?
All right. I thought I was sharing sound. Let me share sound. 1 second, please.
It's such a beautiful bell. It's worth hearing in its depth.
I'll share the screen. Thank you. I share the link of the bell in case you're interested in beginning the whole video with bells, beautiful bells.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So good being with you. So appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wonder